Here's a preview of this episode.
Nice.
Sorry.
No need to sugarcoat it. Okay.
A lot. I tried to do it twice.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey everybody.
How you doing?
All right.
What's going on?
world. I mean, even the first time I heard her voice, I was like, oh my God, like I.
And now, this episode.
Hey everybody. Mark Masters, Hannah Jones here
Hi.
today. Very excited here tonight, I guess. We're just outside of Dos Luces where Hannah just did a set at an open mic, and we are driving to Comedy Works downtown to see Mateo Lane.
Yeah.
That's correct. And we are 11 minutes away, 5.2 miles. So let's get started. How long have you been doing comedy, Hannah?
The first time that I did comedy, I started in college. My freshman year, I auditioned for an improv troupe. And I started with improv. I sort of dabbled in sketch and stand-up, but didn't really put any sort of real time in. So that was 2013? No. Yes. Yes, 2013. Fall of 2013.
7 years. 6.5? Something like that?
6.5?
Holy moly. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's great. Do you remember, how long have you been in the Denver scene?
About coming up on 2 years.
Nice. Perfect. Do you know what the date is for your 2 years?
I think I went to my first open mic in Denver in June, but I started doing improv here as soon as I got here.
Okay. My 2-year anniversary will be June 25th.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Damn, we're almost at the same.
Yeah. That's coincidental. What did you think of Denver when you first got here? Do you remember your first Denver open mic?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was interning at Voodoo Comedy to get free classes, because whenever I got to a new city, it was just like, I know if I go to an improv theater, I know those are my people, I can like make friends. It was really more of a social thing for me. And then I was teching Wednesday nights, which is when the open mic happens, and I watched it.
Who was the host back then? This guy who moved to New York?
Nikolai Rosco was
Yeah.
the host.
Okay.
But I feel like I remember the first time it was Bryant was guest hosting it.
Okay.
And there were a lot of like, you know, obnoxious / depressing / boring sets like usual. But one thing that I saw in Denver that I had not necessarily seen elsewhere was just like insanely funny people.
Yay!
Because I had, you know, seen open mics in other places, and I think a lot of the reason why I was never just like really driven to participate in a scene and really put the time in was because I had never seen like, holy shit, these people are just, they're like regular people, and they're so funny. And like so much funnier than I am, or that I think. I don't know if you've ever been to an open mic in like a smaller town, and
I sure have.
and I would frequently get the kind of obnoxious, arrogant feeling of like, oh, I could do that. And so I think that's a lot of reason why I never tried. But then when I came here and I saw a lot of people go up, and I was like, holy shit, I could not do that unless I really put a lot of work in and got very good.
Did you go up that first night, or you were just
No.
teching? You were just watching? Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't go up for a few weeks.
Do you remember anybody in particular who was funny?
Yeah, I remember Ben's set was just super different from what I'd seen, like the energy that he brought to the stage. Let's see, Michael Isaacs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the first open mic I ever saw was also the first time he ever did his like New York baby bit in Denver.
Okay.
People were like losing their minds.
Yeah. He was one of the people that I saw early on that just, I was blown away.
Yeah.
And, like intimidated and impressed, and
Yeah, I had never seen stuff like that. And
he's so funny.
there were definitely others, but it kind of blurs.
That's
together.
awesome. If you could, I don't know how this question will work, because I'm not quite sure what your very first open mic experience was. If it was more like an improv workout. But if you could go all the way back 6 years in a time machine and tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself to try and help?
I mean, when I started in college, it was just an absolute dream. it's a really lucky way to start comedy. Like, the first time that I ever did stand-up comedy was in front of 200 people.
Whoa.
And I got a full 5 minutes, and they were all people who knew me and were rooting for me, and, like, college comedy is just so much luckier. Like, we'll never get that lucky again. Even though I'm, like, so much better now, I crushed so much harder in college, you know?
Yeah.
There's really, nothing that I regret about, like, that whole experience was so fun and taught me so much about, like, producing a show and working with other people and how to find the right people to work with. And, yeah, it was really amazing and magical. But if I could go back in time, I would probably go back to when I first got to Denver. And tell myself that, I don't know, just like a lot of social things. I felt like so isolated. I felt like no one would talk to me for like so long, like longer than other people who moved here or other people who just weren't very good. Like I felt like I was on the outs for much longer. And I wish I could tell myself
That's a common
things
theme.
I think a lot of it was like this positive feedback loop where like every time someone ignored me, I was like, oh, well, they're just like, they want nothing to do with me ever. And so then I would not ever like try to talk to them or be their friend again. I would just like...
So what is the advice you would give yourself?
I would go back, I would say very specifically that you're going to have to go to at least 4 mics a week for like at least 4 months. And like, that's not true for everyone, but that's how long it took people to warm up to me. Something about my personality took longer, and that's like fine. But I think if I just had that date to look forward to, it wouldn't have felt so like for a long time I was just so confused. It was like I'm doing the same stuff that everyone else is, and they just like won't talk to me.
Right. That's cool. That would have kept your spirits up and encouraged you.
For sure. And I think just like there was like a lot of me, I could have been warmer to other people if I had known that it wasn't about me personally. It was just the like, yeah, I don't know.
That's just kind of the way it goes. Now, how do you behave around random people? Do you try and be kinder, gentler, or are you in the same like, this person's gonna quit in a few weeks?
I try to be kinder and gentler, but I also am one of the many comics here who works a full-time day job and then spends like 30-ish hours a week at comedy events or like on the way to comedy events. And so like I don't have a ton of energy to give. I don't really seek out new people because I'm also not a very gregarious person. I don't get a lot of pleasure out of talking to new people. I find it to be a stressful experience. But I try to be nice. I've had a few experiences recently with newer people that have made that so much harder. And so now I'm trying to be a little bit more gracious with myself that like, actually, you should be open to being nice to everybody, but not everyone deserves friendliness because some people are fucking awful.
Nice.
Sorry.
No need to sugarcoat it. Okay. That's a good segue into a question I have. I'm not on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a new segment I'm starting called "What's the Beef?" And, or "Where's the Beef?" Or I don't know what was that? What was that thing? Do you remember? You're probably too young for that. The old Wendy's commercial. Anyways, what's a silly or notable beef on Facebook that I have no idea about?
Okay. Fun. Let's see. There was a misunderstanding with like a show that was on 5280 Comedy as an open mic. It was like a show that's booked solely through drop-ins, and it's like a bunch of 7-minute spots. So basically some new people showed up for an open mic and they were like, well, if you don't have 7 minutes, you can't go up. And there was just like a lot of miscommunication, but then people were like, fuck these open mic hosts, that's not fair and they suck. And then they were like, okay, this was a huge misunderstanding, and that was just a whole thing. And it all went down within like 5 hours. And then everyone was like, oh, okay, we see what happened here, no big deal.
That's great. Hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm missing anything there. I'm sure there's good stuff, but cool. What's your favorite show you've been to at Comedy Works as we're heading to Comedy Works?
I just saw Michelle Wolf when she was in
Oh
town.
yeah, how was it?
It was phenomenal. It was like I specifically, when I like really relate to a comic and just like look up to them, I just get so insanely inspired. And so Michelle Wolf was just someone who, like, I mean, even the first time I heard her voice, I was like, oh my god, like I didn't even realize that you could like have like a squeaky kind of obnoxious voice and just like not apologize for it, because it's not a bad, wrong thing.
Right. Huh.
I
Did
love
people go nuts
her
for
and
her?
everything about her. She was working out some stuff, and I'll say that like I am pretty sure she did 45, and I think about 20 minutes is like really good and tight, and maybe 25 is like really new. So I think I enjoyed it as a comic, watching her process more than the average audience member. I had a couple friends who saw her while she was in town who don't really understand the process as much, and they were kind of like, that was so different from like her special that just came out. And I was like, yeah, it is different. She just burned like years worth of work.
Yeah. Did she bring a feature, or who was on the show?
She brought her opener and her feature.
Oh, interesting.
She brought, what was his name? Andrew Collin, I think.
Okay.
It's that guy that Nikki Glazer takes on the road. And then this other guy I'd never heard of.
How important is it to you to get in by 8 on the dot?
I'd love to go ahead and, yeah, I'd say pretty important.
Okay. Let me circle around, then I'll drop you off. And then I'll figure out parking.
Yeah, sorry, Dom.
Oh, actually, here we go. Never mind.
And I can walk from here.
Yeah,
if
I'll walk.
we can like wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do exactly that. I don't know, we should talk about one more thing. What should we talk about?
Oof, I don't know.
What annoys you? What crazy open mic story or something that annoys you about open micers?
I will just go ahead. This is something that came up earlier. When I said like, oh, I've been trying to be more gracious, that like not everyone deserves being nice to. There was clearly something that was just on my mind that happened to me recently and really rattled me. A couple times, but one specifically, I've been like, just like really heavily and unnecessarily shamed for not remembering someone who I like barely met. I'm pretty bad with faces, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Like, as a female comic, I'm the only comic in town with my haircut, and most male comics cannot say the same thing for their like look.
Right.
There's nothing distinguishing about a lot of them. And I'm not trying to have this like huge like patriarchal dig at them. It's literally just that like it's harder to recognize a rando new male comic than it is a female. Like, it's easier for them to recognize me. Yeah. And this dude yelled at me. He straight up yelled at me.
You didn't know his name?
Because he yelled
him?
hi at me on the street, and I did not realize he was a comic.
Even worse.
I had my headphones in, I had my hood up, and I just like averted my eyes, because that's what you do at the corner of 21st and Larimer when you're a woman and it's 10 p.m. and someone yells hi at you.
Right.
And so then I got to an open mic later, much later in the night, where he yelled at me for how like rude that was of me. And at the time I did what I always do, which is apologize. And then later I went home and I just got more and more angry about it, and the fact that I had apologized, because it's just like, how fucking dare he not think about, first of all, my perspective as a person walking alone on the street who is constantly not constantly, but like occasionally yelled at in a scary way. And also, how could he just be such a dickhole that like whenever I introduce myself to a person who's like busy and gets introduced to a lot, I try to do it twice. Yeah. Like, even if I know we've met before, I'll still be like, hey, I'm Hannah, in case you like didn't remember, you know? Anyway, fuck that guy, and I really wish that hadn't happened, and I'm mad about it.
Anthony.
Hey.
Hey, buddy. We're filming. Come in and say hi. Wave.
Oh.
That's Anthony.
Hey.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing?
All right.
What's going on?
This is Denver comedy.
Yeah.
You going into my tailing?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm good friends with the guys featuring.
Oh,
Right
tight.
on. All right, so we're going to say
I'm
goodbye.
Like 15
All right.
years.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for